Okay, we are live.
On MTV, we are.
You're watching Mentionables TV. We're still working through our 15-part series on questions that no Christian can answer. These questions come from the Non Sequitur YouTube channel. And this is today's question.
If you've never been to the ends of the earth, if you've never been to every planet, if you've never been to the corners of the universe, how do you know other gods don't exist?
Okay, this question's just bad. It's like saying we can't know anything because we can't know everything. But to be fair, and under the assumption the question is well-meaning, why does it matter? If there is a God of this world or galaxy, then this is the one that we should be concerned with. To be concerned with possible deities for other planets would be like ignoring your supervisor at work and instead following the advice from a supervisor of a different department. That's a good way to get fired. In short, you don't have to know everything to have knowledge of what your meaning, purpose, and duties are. There really is no need to go any deeper, as absurd questions don't help us get closer to the truth.
If you have never been to every place in the world or the universe, how do you know other gods do or do not exist? This was a bizarre question. And how do you know, if you haven't checked under every rock and every stone in every place and examined every single little thing, how can you know something? Because the evidence I do have points me to it. That's pretty simple. This right here is a level of skepticism that eats your brains. Right? This is like so open-minded your brains fall out. I don't understand how this can be something. I'm sorry. I know I'm being a little. I mean, if you're honestly feeling struggling with this, I'm not meaning to be insulting or offensive, but this is a level of rationality that just, this should not be something that drives your thinking or belief on what is or is not true. Let's just look at simple logic, okay? If you have not examined everywhere, how could you know these other gods don't exist? Well, because let's say you have religions A through Z. All of these religions have mutually exclusive claims. If one of them is true, the others cannot be. Okay? Christianity teaches Jesus is God incarnate, crucified and risen again. And the only way for forgiveness. Well, okay, religions B through Z teach otherwise. They can't both be true. So if you have good reason to believe that Christianity is true, then all the others must logically be false. Okay, all religions A through Z, such that if A is true, the rest must be false. So if A is true, B through Z must be false. Hey, A is true. Okay, all the other ones are false. Well, you haven't examined everything and everywhere to know they don't exist. No, this one's true. If I have every reason to believe this one is true, those must be false. I don't need to go examine them. I don't have to go look everywhere. I just look at what I have. This is true. That can't be. So that's how you know. That's why, just because you haven't overturned every stone and been to every corner of the universe to examine if there are other gods out there, because I know this God's true. And if that one's true, these others can't be. Simple deduction. That's how you know.
What she's doing with this question is taking an argument that is typically used against atheists and trying to flip it around against Christians. So the argument against atheists is essentially the same thing. If you haven't been everywhere and seen everything, how can you tell me that God doesn't exist? This is playing off the idea of a universal negative, which says you can present evidence that something does exist, but you can never present evidence that something doesn't exist. And she figures, well, if this is a question that no atheist can answer, It's a question that no Christian can answer either. However, if you define God as the greatest possible being, a being with maximal greatness, then it means that God has every great-making property to its maximal degree. This includes existence or presence. So we define God as omnipresent, meaning he's present everywhere. So if I'm off in some corner of the universe and I find a very powerful being proximal to that location, that's not God, because God is maximally great, which means he's maximally present. He's present everywhere, not just proximal to a specific location. So my idea would be, well, this is a very powerful being, but it's not God. So if there's a second God that shares all the attributes of God, is a maximally great being, meaning that he's omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, then he occupies all the attributes of God. That's God. That's essentially the same thing. So you can't have two greatest possible beings, since one great-making property would be uniqueness. So this question really doesn't make any sense if you take into account the monotheistic, greatest possible being God of Christianity.
Okay, so this question by Geck? I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm sorry, I don't mean offense. I really just don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, so I'm going to say Geck. But this question is, well, okay. Would she find this compelling if I asked her something like this? If you've never been to the ends of the earth, if you've never been to every planet, if you've never been to the corners of the universe, how do you know that God doesn't exist? I really doubt it. So why should we think that the same for other gods? Plus, does she think that we would just kick over a rock and be like, oh my God, literally a god. Helen, come and check this out. No, hurry up. I found another one. I mean, how this question made the list of questions Christians can't answer may be the only unanswerable question before us throughout this entire series.